And we are live with episode 24 of the RetroSlot podcast featuring Damn It to Hell.
Hi.
How you doing, man? Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being on.
I'm great. Thank you for having me. How are you guys doing?
Doing all right.
I can't complain. I would have been doing a lot worse if you hadn't, or I'd be doing a lot better if you hadn't chosen Kid Icarus as the game to play this week. I'm going to put that on your shoulders. My mental well-being is now being placed on your shoulders. How's that make you feel?
I'm okay with it.
All right, cool.
No
I just
problem.
imagine him trying to choose a game because I asked him like what game he'd like to choose, and he said, I'm pretty sure he said Metroid. I was like, we literally just did that, and he's like, you mother. All right, what can I think of to punish you for not letting me talk about Metroid?
Yes. You can still talk about Metroid. We just talked about it last week. I feel like there's still more to say. I think actually there's more to say about Metroid after playing Kid Icarus.
That's true. Yes, there is some
overlap. Yeah.
Yeah, there definitely is with the developing.
So do you play a lot of retro games?
I've actually last year put together in an empty room in my house what we call the arcade, but it's just a massive emulation machine that I've built arcade controllers for and hooked up to a big TV.
Oh, nice. Like an arcade kind of like stand-up cabinet?
Well, I have an arcade stand-up that will run mostly just arcade games, but I built just a small form factor tower with a 1660 in it and a Ryzen 5.
Yeah.
That will run anything from Intellivision to PS3.
Yeah. Awesome.
And I built it's like a pedestal control that's for 4 people. Say like if you took the Teenage Ninja Turtles controller off of the set,
yeah,
that's basically what I've got. But I have a trackball and the little wheels like you had from the old Intellivision controller.
Yeah, the spinner.
So I can play literally any game. And I've been introducing my 2 youngest kids to a lot of stuff that I enjoyed whenever I was a kid.
How do they like it?
It's hit or miss.
Yeah.
Some of the games and going back even it now, I'm like, how did I play this game? It's so damn hard. Jesus.
And it was your only game for 6 months, so you just had to.
Just the real button mashers, they don't really enjoy, but they found some enjoyment like with the original Legend of Zelda and of course Mario Brothers.
Sure. How old are your kids?
My 2 youngest are soon to be 16 and 18 in December. 16 3 days after mine, and then 18 December 31st.
And are they gamers outside of like what you've introduced them to? Do they play video games aside from that?
Yes, we've all my kids and I have played video games as long as they've been able to hold a controller.
Mm-hmm. What do they play like given their own leisure time? What do they play?
My youngest, Fortnite, Rocket League, some Apex from time to time, and my soon-to-be 18-year-old he was playing a lot of Resident, R6 Siege.
Oh, yeah.
The Tom Clancy game, I think it is. Some Minecraft. He played a little bit of Borderlands whenever it first came out, but it just he didn't get it.
So what games have they been drawn to on the retro setup, on the arcade setup?
My soon-to-be 16-year-old, he likes to go back to a lot of the PS2 stuff that he played whenever he was real little.
Oh shit! Because he's got his own retro games.
Yeah, so he's like, I remember seeing that cover, or I remember that character, but I don't remember much about the game because he's like 5, going, playing the game.
Sure.
So he's gone back and played a lot of that stuff. But he loves just OG Pac-Man and Galaga.
Okay.
More times than not, if he comes in, if the machine's not on, he's like, can I play the arcade? Yeah. And I hear Galaga within 5 minutes. He's like, pew, 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 pew. And 30 minutes and he's done.
That's all you need.
Yeah, he played a little bit of Donkey Kong because he found out that it was Mario, but then quickly realized that it wasn't very Mario-like. But he and I both played a ton of just the original Mario Brothers, where you're down in the sewer
Oh
And
yeah.
he liked that because he can mess with me. He can bop me from underneath and send me into something, and he just cracks up laughing. I was like, you're not a little kid anymore, right?
It'll always be fun messing with Dad.
Does he beat you at games regularly, or do you normally hand it to him?
It depends on the game. Um, if we were to 1v1 in Fortnite, then yeah, he would own me because he's got so many solo victories. For a while, that's all he did, and he was really good at it. I was like, "You're like the next Shroud or Ninja," but then he got bored with it. We don't really play against each other that much. I like to try to find stuff for us to do together. Um, but here recently, the most that we've played a lot of Phasmophobia together, and it's funny because they'll be in their own rooms, and I'll like, hang on a second, and I'll get up and just go bang on their door, scare the crap out of them.
That's
I'm like,
awesome.
yeah, I'll be right back. I got to go to the bathroom, and I'm just like, bang on their door.
I built one of those machines as well, but I didn't build the arcade stick for it. So it's just like a spare PC it's literally under that TV behind me. But I never turn it on because once I got a Mister, like I'm not that attracted to the PS2 and the PS1 right now. Like the early 3D stuff isn't super appealing to me, but the 2D stuff is really where I get my big nostalgia fix. And the Mister has become like my one-stop shop for like all of the Neo Geo, the TurboGrafx, the Super Nintendo, the Genesis, like all of them.
Very nice.
But I got to build one of those 4-player arcade sticks.
It's nice, and it's funny because whenever I was going through the idea of how I wanted to make it, because originally I just went and bought from a company the little stand-up arcade cabinet with a 19-inch screen.
Yeah.
That's it's bigger than one of the ones you see at Walmart, the replicas, and it doesn't it's a normal size arcade cabinet. But then once I had that in my hands and was playing arcade games, I was like, but I want to play this and this. So it quickly evolved into me researching where the buttons and controls were and like drawing everything up and then making it.
It take a lot of time to figure out because you're trying to make a control layout for like hundreds of games. So like to decide on a control layout is...
Well, when it came to the wiring, I just pulled up a diagram and followed that, and I was like, I will ruin this. I went into it very cocky, right? And then I opened up all the packages when it came from Amazon with all the buttons and wires, and I was like, okay, so this runs in series with that. Maybe there's a schematic or a YouTube video.
I was gonna say, did you use some kind of tutorial or build for that thing?
Yeah, I just went and found. I looked up the best way to do it, and then made it work with because I just kind of went with the little half arc on the 2 rows of buttons like you see. But very quickly, once that was done, here's me being nostalgic. Like, well, what if I just what if I had NES controllers for my NES, and then I had this and this. So then I went and bought all these controllers aftermarket with USB connections, and then got USB extenders that come out of the cabinet, so I can just hot swap controllers as we swap systems. And it's gotten out of control. It really has.
Does it have Bluetooth on it too? Does it have Bluetooth on it too?
Yes.
It's like you could use those 8-bit 2 controllers probably as well.
Well, the only Bluetooth controllers I've used on it are the PS3 ones.
Okay.
Because I just went and bought little knockoff NES controllers for $20 a piece, and then like every time you go up a generation, they go up $5-10. But the hardest one to find was the GameCube controllers, and like in the USB anyway. But I finally found those. I had to wait for them for China.
Yeah, I think they've gotten more popular with the Switch. People going back to play because they want to play. What's that game called? It's like a fighting game, but it's for like
Smash
little kids.
Bros?
Yeah, that's the one.
What was it?
They want to play
Smash Bros?
Smash Bros. They want to play Smash Bros with the GameCube controller still, even on the new console.
That's funny.
Purists.
One game that I never really put a lot of time into was Smash Bros. And people are amazed when they come to stream. They're like, "You ready for Smash Bros?" Like, never played it. And they say, "I'm leaving." And sometimes they're serious. They're like, I don't associate with you anymore. You play Smash Brothers, and when you get 700 hours in, then you come back and we'll consider letting you into the people we
Yeah.
think are not atrocious.
For me, because I'm younger than both of you, but still,
There he goes
Smash
again.
Bros. 64 was like when I was in high school. I remember going over to friends' houses, and there'd be a couple of people over with the N64 playing Smash Bros. And I was like, I'll play one game. I'm done. Like that was pretty much it. But some people were really into it. You know, I was into Halo and Counter-Strike and stuff, and some
Yeah.
folks were into.
Yeah, I had a lot of laps in game time. Had a lapse between NES and SNES because that was about the time that I graduated. And then I got married early, and then had kids early, and then the kids came, and I was like, yes, I can game again and not get yelled about it. So I just kept having kids. It's like, this one's too old to game. Have another one. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I missed in my early 20s, and well, a lot of just stuff that I missed, and I've been going back and being able to play a lot of that stuff is really cool.
I think that's
then-
true with a lot of people, right? It's like once you graduate high school, like your free time suddenly becomes much more valuable.
Mhm.
So like you may choose to spend it on gaming, but you may not have that choice at all, right?
Yeah.
You just might not have a choice of how to spend free time if you have it.
Well, it's really cool now because a lot of the emulators that have come out, a lot of the modern stuff, or the ones that have just gotten more modern updates, now have net play. So you can
Yeah.
play games now that you couldn't have played online because it didn't even exist.
Right.
And it's great to play
That's
some Dr.
insane.
Mario against some random person on the internet that also just happens to be playing Dr. Mario at the same time you are.
One of my favorite games for the Nintendo 64 is Mario Golf, and playing that on an emulator at 4K, this is just better. Like, this is better than playing it on the original system. Like,
If only you could upscale the texture images.
Yeah,
because
textures
you got
are rough.
these nice clean angles and polygons, and then this real muddy texture filling it
Yeah.
in. But it's so nice. I went and replayed all of the Ratchet and Clank games on emulation on stream leading up to the new one. And man, some of those PS2 games on playing on a PS3 emulator, running on a 3080, it was just like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering how
nice.
you were doing that.
Yeah, I was
Made it
running an
look so
emulator
clean.
called RPCS3. I've done so much disc ripping since I got this set up.
Mhm.
I think I'm gonna get, because I feel, even if I probably never get caught, I have this nagging voice in the back of my head that says, you don't own that game, don't download that. So even if you own like a broken copy of it, you're
Yeah.
good with a ROM. So I've been buying stuff from GameStop and eBay and like looking specifically broken Link to the Past.
That's like the opposite of what Jay gets.
Yeah, exactly. That's very true.
It's like the opposite end of the market.
Mint Link to the Past.
So you're saying if I have broken games, I should hit you up, is what you're saying.
I mean, if I don't have a copy of it, sure.
Do you collect a lot of games?
It's funny because, well, no. Short answer, no. I've never really been much of a collector because growing up, I grew up poor, had a small room. I didn't really have the funds for the stuff to collect, much less the place to put it. In last year, I finally moved into this house. First time I've ever been out on my own without a wife or anything. And I have all this space now, and I'm like, I have nothing to put anywhere. So over the past year, I've just been buying, and then between stuff that I've bought and things that game developers have sent me, I've got a nice starting collection of game stuff. But I would like to get into some retro collection, just at least just the consoles themselves. Because I'm afraid if I ever got into like what Jay does with the games, that I would be that guy you see when you fall down the YouTube rabbit hole that's got like, he now lives in a shed because he converted his whole house into a game museum, and that would be me, because I don't do things small.
Yeah, I don't either.
I tend to get a little out of hand with stuff too.
We do now. I can go to the flea market and find an Atari 2600 cartridge, and my brain goes, "This is what we do now," and it's just
much.
well.
So I was curious. We've kind of touched on it a little bit, but how does retro gaming fit into your life now? You were talking about the cabinet and whatnot, and kind of a start to a collection. But what kind of games do you find yourself playing now that are more retro style, and why?
I've more recently especially when the kids aren't here. Like if it's an off day from stream or whatever, and I'm just like I want to play some games. I find myself first going towards what I have as far as arcade ROMs, and then just NES. Every once in a while, um, I'll go to like the Atari, but I never actually owned an Atari. I just have some memories of friends that owned one. But I played a lot of arcade games growing up, and the NES was the first console that I owned. And I cut grass and stuff. I was like pimping myself out for money for games to either rent or buy. So there's a lot of nostalgia there, just because of what I went through to be able to play those games. Um,
Right.
so I don't know. I think it's just a subconscious thing, but I feel like that's why I do that. Is I wind up on those two, and if the kids are here, they usually want to play nothing any older than the N64. But I can fire up some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on arcade, and they're right there though.
That's
Um,
a crowd pleaser for sure.
but yeah, I mean, I'll be 48 next month. The first time I saw any type of video game was the Intellivision in a Sears department store in 78, 79. So I was 6 or 7. So as long as I can remember, video games have been around.
Yeah.
And they were there when the friends weren't. They were there when the girlfriends weren't. They were there whenever I was grounded because mom didn't know. And they've always been my escape, my release, my the one thing that'll get me really angry for no good reason, but also make me happy at the same time. There's just that spending hours on one level screaming and breaking controllers and crying and cursing to the sky, and then you finally get it.
Right. If you So it seems like you're kind of sort of getting back into the retro stuff. Is there, let's say, maybe 3 games or so that you've been pining to play that you haven't gotten to experience yet? Like more retro style games?
Yes. And I'm gonna catch a lot of heat for this, I think, from your listeners and maybe even you guys, considering how big of a Metroid fan I am. But Super Metroid,
Okay.
I never got a chance to play it. I rented a copy of it, and it was, I don't know what was wrong with the cartridge, but you would get to the same point like in the first 10 minutes of the game, and it would just reset every time. And I
Oh,
took it back.
brutal.
So I never really got to play it. I have a broken a broken copy of it, and I have it, and I just haven't had the time because I want to be able to like sit down and dedicate to it and go, okay, I'm gonna give 8 hours to you today. Um, but that's the number one. Um,
I beat that last year on the Switch. It's on the Super Nintendo version on the
mhm,
Switch, or that Super Nintendo app. And man, I'm telling you, that game is just as good as if it came out yesterday. I mean,
really.
except for that it's in 4:3, not 16:9, but it feels like a modern game still. It's so good. You're gonna like. I'm jealous that you haven't played it yet. Because you've got that like first time experience ahead of you.
Hmm.
I mean, I haven't
Um,
played through it either, so
Now, are
right
we
there with
talking games that I've never played, or games that I like may have played for a minute, or
you. Yeah, I mean,
because
just
I
one
I
like Super
never
Metroid ones that you've been kind of pining for or looking forward to playing.
I actually never got a chance to play Pitfall 2 on the I don't remember if
SNES?
that was on the I think it was on the 2600. It might have been on the 5200, but I never got a chance to play that one. And I recently have started looking for it. Um so that should be a good time. The kids will hate it because, 4-bit graphics.
Yeah.
A lot of squares, yeah.
um Gracious. I don't know if it's actually considered retro because I'm not positive when it came out, but the Lost level stuff that they did, it was originally a Japanese release of Super Mario Brothers 2.
Yeah.
It was just way too hard for America, I think they said. And we got our Super Mario Brothers 2 was a whole different game that they just reskinned and said, here you go. So I'm not sure what the actual release on that. I mean, it's old because I know they were made back when Super Mario was, but I've never had a chance to play that, and I feel like that would absolutely make me rage, and I wanted
Yeah. Yeah, it's that
it
hard.
looks so hard.
Yeah, I think they made the right decision, to be honest, is that not bringing that to the US and bringing out
It's
what
like we
they
just had a video game crash. If we send that to America, everything is done.
we're fucked.
We just recovered.
Give them the one with the like radishes and shit. Just
Yeah.
throw random stuff in a game. They'll love it.
Yeah, they Super Mario 2, what we know as Super Mario 2 gets really looked down upon now because we now know the story about it. But at the time, that was really an amazing game. Like it was
I
such
thought
a
it was really
fun
good,
to
and my
play.
friends
Yeah.
hated it. My friends didn't like it. Oh, this
Yeah.
is Mario. With little did they know it wasn't, but
Yeah.
I liked it just because it was different, and
It was so different.
I'd spent God knows how many hours learning everything I could about the first Mario back when all you had was a Nintendo Power magazine.
Right. Right.
There was
You had to
no
call in for tips.
Howard.
Who
I
was your
called Howard a
favorite?
few times. My mom was not pleased about that. I didn't know that the number caused. It just said call Howard in the magazine, and I called him and I listened to the message, and it might be a story for another day, but a few years prior, I did the same thing with the Howard the Duck hotline.
Oh
The
no.
babysitter's house. Yep,
Did you
8
have a
years
favorite
old,
character from Mario 2?
$700 worth of calls to the Howard the Duck hotline. I didn't know that they were
700?
Mhm. Yeah, I was grounded for a year.
Yeah, I bet.
No exaggeration.
$700 in 1980s money too.
My mom said you are grounded until because I grew up in a single home family. Sorry, single parent family, and she worked minimum wage. She said you're grounded until I'm able to pay this off, and it was just right at a year.
Wow. You could have bought a house with that much money back then.
I didn't know that that 1-900 numbers were different than any other phone number. I saw it on the commercial. I was like, heck yeah, Howard the Duck, that's my dude.
I mean,
That's
the
the
movie was so
equivalent.
good.
Don't get me started on Leah Thompson in the 80s. Oh my god.
It's the equivalent of kids getting into like Xbox stores and buying up all the stuff now. You gotta like have parental
Yeah,
restrictions and stuff on.
both my
Oh yeah,
youngest did that to me at different points. So
I bet. Yeah.
PlayStation Store.
You reap what you sow, bud.
I actually called my mom one day and I was like, will you just make it stop? She's like, what? I was like, you remember that time you said, I hope when you have kids, they treat you twice as bad. It's like, it's done. Please take it back.
My mother said the same thing to me, and now she's mad because my kids are so good. She's legit mad about it.
My first two kids, they were crazy.
Yeah.
They just did whatever. My second two are crazy, but they're not as crazy. Either that or I just have a higher tolerance.
Should we get into the news a little bit?
Yeah, sure thing. I was just gonna ask though, Briar, do you typically credit your wife like I do when they say stuff like that?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Why are your kids so good? Not
I mean, I
me.
didn't even meet them till they were 9 years old.
It's true.
So I mean, the early work was all her.
Yeah. That's yep. So, not too much news, but there is some really interesting stories here. The A500 Mini, this is like right up y'all's alley, right? The Amiga stuff.
The Amiga, yeah.
I didn't know a whole lot, but they're coming out with a mini console with 25 games on it. I'm not 100% sure if the keyboard is like fully functional, but it does have a mouse on it, so it's got to be. And also the price tells me that it's fully functioning. It's $139
Hmm.
for an old Amiga with 25 games on it. And I was just like, "What?"
If I wonder if is it neutered for just the games or does it have its old operating system on it?
That's a
Because
good
it doesn't
question.
seem to be. It looks like in this picture, there's a disk drive over on the right side. Looks like a 5 1/4 floppy drive.
It's hard to get a
don't-
scale for the system itself. Like if
Yeah.
that's, it looks like it's much smaller than the mouse. Like two mice, maybe it's like two mice side by side. Like they do some trick photography, I think, to make it look a little bigger than it is.
It
But
is,
I think it is
yeah,
like a mini tiny system.
it is called the Mini, so I would presume that
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
pretty small.
Maybe that's just aesthetic purposes.
yeah.
I
I'm
never had
guessing that
I never had
you
an
plug it
Amiga.
in. No, me neither. That was mainly in Europe, right?
Well, the Amiga 128 was the successor to the Commodore 64, which I had
Mm-hmm.
because the man who gave me life handed me down that whenever he got. So I never got to play around with Amiga, but I know during the time that was the shit. Like people were using that was if you wanted to do graphics or music, that was the system to go with.
Yeah,
What do you guys think of the price point?
it depends on if that keyboard works. If that keyboard works, I think it's about what I would expect. If that keyboard doesn't work, I mean, 25 games ain't a lot of games.
Mm-mm.
And it's going to be emulation anyway. So, do you want a Amiga piece of plastic sitting around on a shelf somewhere? It's up to you. It can be yours for $140.
Maybe if I had one when they were new, I might feel more compelled to.
Yeah.
But as it stands, there's nothing that says you need this.
No.
I could play all these games on something else, I'm sure.
Yeah. I was thinking because they probably are going to have a low sales number regardless. You know, if it like let's say it was half the price, let's say it was like $70 or 60, they still wouldn't have a ton of sales, I don't think. So they're probably trying to recoup, trying to at least make a little bit of profit here, and that was probably their margin based on their like sale number predictions.
This does seem to be the same company that did do the C64 Mini,
Hmm.
which I think was well regarded.
Yeah, it was fully functioning.
Yeah.
This has the controller and the mouse, so it's
Yeah.
kind of cool.
Interesting.
Controller looks pretty terrible.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I'm not even sure what year the A500 was a thing. I'm assuming based on the numbers that it came out after the 128, but um that controller does look very not good.
No.
It doesn't look comfortable, is what I'm trying to get at.
I mean, it's got a control pad on it, so it had to be after the NES, right?
Yeah, because it's
It
got
is
4 buttons.
Yeah.
1987,
87. There you go.
just
The
after
wire
the
comes out of the
NES.
bottom of the controller too. That's an interesting choice.
That's some great Dreamcast bullshit right there.
I always wonder what they were thinking with that. Like, let's be different.
Yeah.
Being different.
They needed room for that big ass slot to put your screen in.
Yeah, the little God, what were those called?
Some kind of memory card deal, wasn't it? I never had one of those. I never knew anybody that had one either.
It had a memory card that had a Game Boy like screen on it, like a black and white screen
Little
on it.
LCD.
And it had a control pad on the memory pad, so you could actually play
VMU,
little
VMU.
games on the VMU.
Oh,
Virtual memory unit, I think, or something like that,
Yeah.
or video memory unit, or something like that.
Virtual. It had to be virtual. This is Sega. They love Virtua.
Yeah. So the next piece of news probably will strike you a bit, Briar. Castlevania Bloodlines beta ROM has been released. So it's like
Interesting.
beta 0.5, and there's some stuff in there that was not in the final release. So
Oh.
if you're a huge Castlevania fan and liked Bloodlines, because that is a pretty good game in the series. I haven't played it, but um,
I never finished it, but I played it.
Yeah, I played it too. I've never finished it either.
yeah, some of this content was leaked in 2014, and then some of this stuff was in like early publications. When they're like advertising Bloodlines that didn't end up making it to the final game.
Mhm.
So you can go and download that ROM and play it, which is pretty cool.
Hmm.
Sega Saturn O.com is where it is, and we're getting this news from Nintendo Life, so that was kinda
Interesting.
cool.
Probably instead of playing it, I'd rather just see somebody make a YouTube video pointing out all the differences and all the cool stuff.
Yeah. And it looks too that the beta was bought on eBay by somebody and then basically ripped it up
Nice.
in public to
Doing
use.
the Lord's work.
Yeah, right. Seems to be happening more often these days, like, kind of secretive old stuff being bought at auction and then shared.
Yeah.
Like, did you hear about the McDonald's training DS game?
Mm-mm.
No.
No. So they're and I believe that you had to have the accompanying DS. So it was like the DS plus the game, and they used it for actual McDonald's training,
Mm-hmm.
back in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, and they were never released for sale, obviously, because they were just used for training. So it was regarded as like the most rare or one of the most rare things to get for the DS. Some collectors are just crazy about that stuff. So there's a whole story on YouTube recently within the last year or two. I think within the last year, actually, somebody was able to get a Japanese copy that somebody had found, and it had like an almost like new condition. It might have even had two DSs and then one copy of the game or something like that. And you had to have a code to get into the game. Like there was like a manager code who
What
they
is
put
this?
in the.
Laser Shoot Larry? You gotta have like a
Yeah,
code
no,
from the
seriously. So
manual.
there have been people that like found the game but didn't have the code, and so people had to try to help them like hack the game and stuff to get the code and all this stuff. It's crazy. It's like a super
Yeah, I'm sure
interesting
they're
story.
chomping at the bit to play that McDonald's
That,
training game.
that sounds just like Sierra Tactics from back in the day.
Really, right?
I should send you that link to the
All the
YouTube video. It's
Quest games.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
We've talked about the folks at Sierra, the Quest games. They've been in the news and stuff in the last 6 months or so.
Oh, really? What's going on?
I'm trying to remember. They were developing a new game, I believe,
Hmm.
a while ago.
I recently played the most recent, after having played the others, the most recent Leisure Suit Larry games, and it's not really the same since Al Lowe left.
Yeah.
His humor was more kind of poking at it, where the new guys are just like penis.
Yeah.
They lost the subtlety of Laser Shoot Larry.
Yeah, it's just they just right in your face, boom. There's no nudity, but there's no. It's not like dirty humor. It's not witty. It's just fart jokes and stuff. So
Yeah.
Like Conquer. They're trying to capture a younger audience, maybe. Surface level. GoldenEye, I kind of found this interesting. GoldenEye speedrunners for 007 found a new strat. Like after all this time, so there was a strat basically where towards the end, I believe, there was this turret that would just essentially kill you. And for the longest time, people would go the long way around it so that they wouldn't die from it. And they found out, or I think they had to go like find like an item that would give you health or something enough to get past the turret. But a speedrunner found that you could bait the turret out and like kind of like act like you were going, and then the turret would start shooting you, and then you could go around it. That's a new strat that nobody had used up to this point, and it saved him like a minute or two or something like that, which in a speed run is ridiculous. So, like, I just thought it was interesting that they found a new strat in speed runs like 20 it says 24 years later.
it always amazes me just to watch, even in modern games, whenever people like how their minds work. Where I'm just like, doop, 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 checkpoints over here. Okay, pow, 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 pow. Next. And they're like, there's a missing pixel on that texture up there. You
Yeah,
see that?
right.
I bet I could grenade jump up to that, put my pinky toe in it, and then quickly jump off. And it's just like, and it works. And it's like, how? How do you? I play games differently than people do, but that's just next level stuff.
Yeah.
There's a
It's like
great YouTube channel called Summoning Salt that's all about the speedrunning community. And what's great about his videos and what makes it actually interesting to watch, because a lot of times, like, explaining a speedrun isn't that interesting, but the way he does it is he shows like kind of the the original speed runs, like let's say it's a game from the 80s, he'll show what it was like in the 90s when people speed running it, and then he'll go through historically and kind of show the updates that people have made to speed runs for each specific game, like Punch Out or Mario or something like that. He's got a great YouTube channel. He does it in a very
Especially when
entertaining
you,
way.
and it's especially impressive when you start getting into the tool assisted stuff where
Yeah,
they program it to see if it's possible, but then learn and do it that way. So just
yeah,
like pixel perfect stuff, and it amazes me. I see
yeah.
what they did, like my old eyes see what they did 30 seconds after they did it. It's like, wait,
Yeah.
rewind? What?
You ever watch like the new or the like Super Mario Maker stuff too that people do?
Yeah, those people
Similar
are
that way.
I haven't seen
next
any of
level.
that.
Oh my god. Well, they because they build their own levels and stuff, and some of them, like you said, you have to be pixel perfect in where you're jumping and whatnot. So they'll create this level, and with Super Mario Maker, you have to beat your own level before you can publish it. So people do these crazy things, and then they'll publish it, and everybody else will be like, "How the
You know,
hell?"
I think I actually saw a video on Twitter the other week that was somebody the flaming I don't remember what they're called Mario, but the big long flame spikes that just
Yeah,
spin
yeah.
around. And the caption was me avoiding COVID, like, and he's just like all over the place, not getting hit by any of that stuff. And I was just like, how?
Crazy. All right. Next thing, if you pretty much have to click the videos. So any fans of Banjo Kazooie, they don't. There's like no real remaster. There was the Xbox 360 stuff, which is not really, the nuts and bolts, which is not really what we would consider a remaster. But a fan has started to create more authentic. It's funny. It says official trailer, more authentic Banjo Kazooie remaster stuff. So they're remastering textures and kind of the maps and stuff. I don't know if they like created things from scratch or how they're doing it, but some of these look pretty incredible.
Yeah, like real good.
Yeah. People
Oh
are like,
wow.
yeah, Rare needs to hire them, but they look very new. And it's just kind of exciting to think about, what if they brought Banjo Kazooie back?
Yeah. Rare has not shown a lot of interest in doing that. I think that's really what the genesis of the ukulele games was, right? Is that it
Right.
was people who I don't remember if it was ex-Rare employees or if it was just fans that wanted Banjo Kazooie games again. So they just kind of formed a studio and started making them under the ukulele title.
Hmm.
That
That's
era
cool.
of 3D platformers, tough to go back to. Have you
Oh
guys
yeah.
tried that? It's such a collectathon, and
Donkey Kong 64 and
yeah,
yeah,
it's
all that
really
stuff.
hard to go back to.
Some of them were good, but I think it also depends on the system too, because like you were saying earlier about PlayStation 1, the early 3D stuff, a lot of it just looked real smeary. So,
Yeah.
and a lot of those jumps and moves required precision. And if you weren't exactly sure where the edge of where you were jumping was because of the aliasing or whatever that they had, it made it look so blurry, then it was miserable.
Yeah, on the PlayStation in particular, stuff would move, like because the geometry was kind of so rudimentary, and like the way
Mhm.
it was rendered is like stuff would actually like warp and move while you're like running through a hallway and stuff.
Speaking of PlayStation, PlayStation Core is being developed by the Mister developer now.
Yes,
So
PlayStation. So that's like the PlayStation and the Saturn are both getting developed for Mister, but nobody's mentioned the N64 yet, or I don't have confirmation on the N64. But if they
well,
get those three,
we know that that person's been working on the N64 for a while now. I don't remember their name. I'm following them on Twitter, but they
mhm.
update. They pop out updates every few months, like, "Hey, I updated this one little thing on the N64. Check out this one little demo. The colors are still screwed up, but." So I'm curious if they bring this out to like the Mister, is it going to be, more authentic to the original graphics? Or are they gonna like have
This
smoothing
remaster,
options?
this remaster looks like it needs like a modern PC to run, doesn't it?
Well, I mean like I just mean like the PS1 on like a FPGA? Are they going
Uh,
to add, settings to kind of alias stuff, anti-alias stuff, or make it a little smoother? Because like even watching this video on Twitter from FPGA what is that?
Asm
Zumspass?
Spass.
Azum Spass. Watching this video, it's pretty rough, right? Just the PS1 graphics on a
Yeah, well, it
but
says it's running at 40% speed, but the video playback's at 2 times, I guess, to compensate for it. So I'm sure it probably, if it's in its early stages, even as old as PlayStation, it's still very difficult to emulate on even on modern hardware just because of the way stuff worked.
right.
Um, but that's why I prefer playing stuff through emulation. Because you were talking about the settings stuff, you have control over all that stuff, and it's so
Right.
yeah,
one little tweak can make the difference in everything.
To be fair, this is Twitter video, and Twitter video is pretty terrible.
it is. But I mean, the PlayStation is what the PlayStation is, right? It's like the Mister isn't gonna do 4K PlayStation games like a emulation
Right.
setup. Like it's just not gonna do that. But it may improve the video in some ways, but it's not gonna do anything like an AMD processor and a 3080 can do.
Yeah, and even even a lot of the stuff that upscales these cutscene videos in real time, even on modern and high end hardware, is still very taxing.
Yeah. That's exciting though, because there are a lot of PlayStation games that would be nice to have, on the Mister. The nice thing about the Mister is it still has analog hookups, so you can play it on a CRT.
Oh,
You can plug in. It feels like it feels like you're playing on actual hardware. Like I'm imagining that 8-Bit Do will then release PlayStation controllers because they seem to be closely linked. Although the new 8-Bit Do Pro 2 controller pretty much is a PlayStation controller.
It sounds
Um,
like D2H is not, aware of your
Mr.
Mr.
Obsession.
Prowess.
I play with my
Your
Mr. all the time.
I've only heard a little bit about it. Um, I'm assuming it's like an all in one kind of.
Yeah, it is. You can. What it is though is it's got a field programmable. It's got a chip on it that instead of being a chip that runs a program, it's a programmable chip that then can it. You make circuits on this chip. You can program circuits on this chip to act like original hardware. So like when you're playing an NES game on a Mister, for all intents and purposes, you're playing it on an NES.
Okay.
And then you reprogram it to be a Genesis, and it is hardware emulation as opposed to software emulation,
Mhm.
which I'm not smart enough to know really like the details of it, but what you get is like really low latency and you get 1080p video plus you can play on a CRT. Like there's a lot about it that is really appealing.
Yeah, the CRT, that kind of grabbed my attention right there.
Yeah, and people are just throwing those things away. Like if you look on like any kind of local like classified ads, people are just giving them away.
I think I was what's been pre-COVID, but I dropped a bunch of stuff off at Goodwill, and then the kids and I went perusing because it's always a good time to look at other people's stuff. And there were just like a whole wall of old TVs.
Really?
I think, yeah, because I remember my youngest, I call Little Darn It, he was marveled by the old dials where you change a channel like that. He thought they were radio dials on a TV. I was like, no, it's not that fancy, son.
Yeah, that was before the remote control. A lot of times.
Yeah.
I r- I remember there was the original TVs that had like what 3 or 4 channels that you could switch between,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's the ones that came out that had like I don't know 20. It's like they had like a lot more, and that's kind of I think around the time that remotes came out. And I remember, I mean, I
Yeah, I
don't
remember
remember
you
much
had.
before then, but
I remember the top one was 0, and then
Through
2 through
12, right?
13.
Was it 13?
It was 13. And if you put it on 0, then it switched down to the bottom one, which was UHF, and you had what was it, 16 or whatever through 52, I think it was at the time. God dang, I'm old.
We only had one of those TVs, and then the next one we got had the 4 buttons on top of each other. It was like power, menu, then or like power volume and channel. That was it.
Well, we were super 80s family because we had a 27-inch console TV that didn't work, that acted as a entertainment center for our 13-inch TV that sat on top of it.
Those things are built pretty sturdy, so that's a good call.
Oh yeah, I remember stood on it one time and then jumped off of it, and I mean I didn't do that again, but that was also the TV that I took apart for the first time.
Oh.
Which may or may not be why it was turned into an entertainment center.
Very possibly. It's like, which came first, the darn it or the egg?
It's not my fault that Mom didn't hide the screwdriver when she was gone.
That's like my son. He wants to take everything apart. It's like, buddy, it still works. If we take it apart, it probably won't. Like, that's the sign of death.
I took a lot of things apart when I was a kid. Most of them went back together and worked afterwards. Most.
What's the one thing that you're thinking about right now that didn't?
That TV. My grandparents had one of the old like console stereo record players. They looked like just a big piece of furniture, and you raised the lid, and there was the turntable, and it had an area for records, and then had the big, what then was considered big speakers. They were like little 8-inch paper woofers. And I wanted to know what was underneath, so I took the actual stereo unit that had the old dial you would turn and the needle would tune in the radio station. I pulled that whole thing out, and I got it back together eventually, but it initially didn't work when I put it back together, and that was horrifying. That was more
That's a problem.
scary because I was supposed to have already learned my lesson with the TV. But my mind was, well, I'm in a different house and these are different people, so different rules.
Wow. So you were always a tinkerer.
Yes.
Yeah. Because you were talking about building your own arcade cabinet and all that stuff. I was like, I would never be able to do that.
I learned woodworking from my grandfather. And I learned just like wiring shit up from me, just from taking stuff apart and being curious how things work. But I was able to combine those two things and come up with something that works. So
there you go. Like electronics are a lot more simple nowadays than they used to be. A lot less,
yes.
a lot less wires and capacitors and stuff. So the last thing on the news, it's I mean it's newsworthy, but we've been talking about, all these auctions on heritage auctions selling for hundreds of thousands and now millions of dollars. And this, I guess, investigative reporter on YouTube named Carl Jobst.
Oh, sure.
I think that's how you pronounce that. Jobst.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
He's got a lot of subscribers, but I watched the entire video. It's like 40 minutes, 45 minutes long. And he goes into in depth the history and the market manipulation that is going on between WADA and heritage auctions. And it is deafening how like specific these references are and how obvious it seems after watching this video that market manipulation is happening for sure. The person who owns Heritage Auctions is on the board of WADA Games as a advisor or whatever. And also, one of the other kind of cliff notes was back in the 80s there was a coin market crash. And this was when I think it was PCI is what it was called. The first grading company before PCGS and NGC, which are the kind of the main coin grading companies that still exist now. There was a coin grading company that the same person that owns Heritage Auctions and is on the board of WADA Games owned this coin grading company and was sued for fraudulent market manipulation. And so it was like the first kind of major coin grading company that happened. And if you look at coin grades, almost overnight, coin grade or coin values like spiked. Think of like Bitcoin or Dogecoin or whatever, how it just goes from, I don't know, like $100 average to like $800 average, and just
Yeah.
like whoop. And then it comes down a few years later, just absolutely crashes because the bubble. And it talks about the history of people involved in WADA and buying up big collections right before WADA was even created. How WADA
There
and
it is.
Heritage Auctions were they had a relationship before WADA was even grading games. There was a relationship between Heritage Auctions and WADA, and people, yeah, buying up big collections that were a part of WADA that they're not supposed to grade their games. Bullshit. They were doing it. Like
Mm.
this whole video goes into that, and it is very obvious. And it makes me think like if this spreads far enough, this is the beginning of the end for either that guy, WADA, Heritage. I don't know how far it's gonna go, but it's pretty damning, you know.
That
Pardon my
really
pun.
that immediately reminds me of the whole Billy Mitchell Twin Galaxies thing. Are you familiar
Hmm.
with that story, the King of
Sort of.
Kong? Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
where like twin galaxies were like invalid. They were validating scores that shouldn't have been, type of thing, and they found this all this out years later.
Yeah.
That's shit like that intrigues me, but it also makes me go, it's like why would you?
Yeah.
But it's funny because now we have the technology to realize that all these like spliced videos and things exist, where before it looked legit. It's like, oh, it's VHS tape. They look like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it should have been a warning sign that he was still sending VHS tapes in like 2020.
Every time I watch a video of that guy, I'm just like, man, he seems like a huge asshole.
Oh,
I
he is
really
a
want to just
royal
kick him in the
prick.
shin. I just want to kick him in the shin just over and over. Like, does that hurt? Yeah. Okay, I'll switch to the next shin.
I
Yeah,
mean, he was one of the first like gaming celebrities, but still, like, I don't know,
Yeah,
it's just
still
weird to me.
mega douche.
yeah. I don't know, like this whole thing with WADA and Heritage Austin, like it just skyrocketed so fast, and things are going for amounts of money that the average person, like you could just tell, like something's fucked up, right? It's
Yeah.
like something's fucked up here, and like it's gonna be a story of their own greed, right? That got them caught in the end. Like if they are doing something illegal, like, and I don't know that they are. Maybe they found a loophole in the system. Maybe they figured this out. But if they are scamming people, they're gonna get caught because of how much money these things were going for, right? It's like when they start making news of Super Mario 64 going for $1.5 million, when there's got to be boxes of this thing around.
Right. Well, and one of the big points of the video was like, maybe at the very least, this kind of information can get them to release population reports of stuff because that would help level out the market, right? Like,
Yeah.
how many sealed 9.8 Super Mario 64s are out there? There's got to be a bunch. So they've been holding. That's one of the big points is they've been holding these population reports close to the vest, and also just as an example of how much they're trying to control the market. Somebody that is involved with WADA, but not technically, but the SEC, he's on the board, like in SEC documents, but publicly he says that he's not involved. Bought up Nintendo Age, which used to have a big like values section of their page where you could like see values of games and popularity and all that stuff. He bought up Nintendo Age and shut it down.
Ah, nice.
Take
So
that.
like he's like specifically trying to control what people are seeing as far as the values of stuff and trying to control that. It's just
Yeah.
like this video is holy crap.
I'm gonna be watching this after the
It,
podcast.
it
That's pretty
tries to
interesting.
be, it's very factual. It's not, there's only a couple of opinions, where there's like public statements and he's like market manipulation at play because it's like Heritage Auctions commenting on the sale of a game. It's like, we can totally see game values still rising past this point, like, and it's like market manipulation tactics, but most of the stuff is just facts and history of like the people that are involved and what they're doing, and accounts of people that have seen them do stuff. The son of somebody that was part of Heritage Auctions that said that they literally had a conversation in front of them that they were specifically doing market manipulation. Like, it's pretty effing damning. It's crazy. Anyways, like, I found it very interesting, this video.
Yeah.
It's everything we've been talking about lately. Have you been kind of watching the news, D2H, on some of these game sales going on?
I haven't. Every once in a while, that stuff crosses through my Twitter timeline. Um, but I don't really keep up with that side of the stuff. Just, I guess because I don't collect
Yeah.
so much. But somebody a few weeks ago, I think you had come in the chat and somebody had mentioned beforehand about the big $1 million purchase that somebody made for a sealed
Mhm.
Mario game, and I was like, what?
Mhm.
But yeah, it's stuff. I mean, I guess if you got the money and you already own everything else you want in life, sure.
Yeah.
So does knowing this now, Jay, make you want to sell your Super Mario before the market collapses?
I'm still on the fence because the thing is, like, if there is market manipulation on specific games, like they're bidding them up or they're buying them themselves and stuff, like, I don't want to send this in and have it sell for like 3 grand, because I would want to keep it if that's the case. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Can
if
you
it was,
set a
if I,
reserve?
you could, but if it doesn't sell, then you have to pay the fees on that price that you set.
Hmm.
So let's say theoretically I put a reserve of 20 grand. If it didn't sell, I'd have to pay 20% of 20 grand. Like,
Oh,
yeah, I'm like,
that's a
I'm okay.
that's
I
a
don't have an
hustle.
extra.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yo, you guys want to start an auctioning site? This sounds fucking crazy.
Jesus. So like, I'm on the fence because those values are so wildly, up and down, that I have no real idea of what it would go for, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I'm torn.
Yeah. This has got to be a bubble. Like, it's
Oh,
got to be.
100%.
And
100%.
now, like, if people start cottoning that it's a manufactured bubble, I would imagine it's going to burst kind of more severely than like just a
Right.
regular bubble.
But who
But I
knows
mean,
when that'll happen, whether
yeah,
that's sooner or later.
yeah, I don't know. Who could tell you? Yeah, nobody.
Scary. It makes me think about selling like a good chunk of my collection, actually, because I
Yeah,
do have, you know, 20 or so sealed games, some of which are quite valuable in this market right now. So I'm like, maybe I should sell them now and buy them back later. I don't know.
yeah, I
Anyways,
don't know.
scary. Kid Icarus, or did you have any other news, Briar? You
No,
found?
that's it.
Okay.
I want to talk about some Kid motherfucking Icarus.
That's right, motherfucker. So why did you pick this game, D2H?
Yeah, why'd you do this to us, D2H?
Well, when Jay so covertly orchestrated the Metroid episode without me, no, I just kind of sat back and thought like what game was maybe a little obscure that maybe not everybody had heard of, because you think Nintendo, you think Zelda, Link, and Donkey Kong and Mario and Luigi. Um, but this was, after I got to thinking about it, I put a lot of, me and a friend in junior high school put a lot of time in this game trying to figure out how to beat it. And I would wager we probably had close to 200 hours in it before we actually beat it.
Wow.
And we had one of the old composition books with the black and white speckles on it, nearly full of passwords, because
Wow.
my friend Chris was super anal retentive about it. He would write down anytime he got a password, he'd write it down and he'd date it. And then he would bounce around like
Yeah.
from where he was to back here to try to figure out something different. And he was really looking at it much differently than I was. But in retrospect, we put a lot of time into this. We only beat it. I only beat it once, and it was us together. It was a combined effort, but it just took a lot of time.
I think that's a pretty big achievement. It's to beat Kid Icarus. Actually, I think I want to put that on my resume. Honestly, I think that's a pretty cool thing to be able to say. Yeah, I beat Kid Icarus. That's pretty cool.
When we got to the last level, and we were actually flying at that point, and we have the armor, all the stuff that we'd collected. It was just like, even if we don't finish it, this is badass, dude.
Yeah,
We're just drifting through stuff, throwing our spear, and it was so good.
yeah. Kid Icarus, I remember Kid Icarus as a kid, and I remember renting it and being so disappointed with that game when I rented it, because all I saw was, so the game is leveled in like 1-1, 1-2, similar to Mario, kind of, right?
Mm-hmm.
All I saw was probably 1-1 and 1-2, and they were so brutally difficult that I really didn't see past there, and that was, for my entire life, my impression of Kid Icarus, right? It's like, that's all I'd seen, is kind of a black screen. You only just climb upward, and you have a really short arrow, and you occasionally find a shopkeeper that you never have enough money to buy anything at, because
that happened a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was probably the first 6 months of me playing it. It was originally a game that I was pulled in by the cover art.
Mm-hmm.
The tiny little, 2 little thumbnails on the back, because that was all you got then. It was like, all right, here's our game. Looks good.
Yeah.
I'll play that. Give me $70, Mom. But it was one of the games that I would play whenever I was bored with the other 3 games that I had. And it sat there for quite a while until I met my friend Chris in junior high. He transferred from another school, and we just kind of hit it off immediately. And he was like, "Going to go home today, and we're going to be playing some more Kid Icarus." And I was like, "That game sucks, dude. Why do you want to play that? Let's play some Mario or something." And he just got me back interested into it, because I would always get to the area. I cannot remember the enemy's name, or if he was even told to us, probably in the manual, but there was a statue looking dude that would just turn you into an eggplant. You were an eggplant with legs, and you couldn't shoot, you couldn't do anything but move and jump. And in order to no longer, it wasn't something that just went away after a while. No, you had to like maneuver as a fucking eggplant through all this nonsense with no bow and arrow to protect your ass, to get to somebody to buy a potion that would turn you back into Pit, which was your character.
That was 1-4, by the way.
Was it?
Yeah, because I got to 1-3, almost beat it, and I said, "Screw it! I just want to see the next level." So I teleported to 1-4, and I got turned into, I guess, an eggplant. And I was like trying to wiggle it off. I was like, "Come on!" I was like, "All right, fuck this game. I'm done."
And the absolute worst thing that ever happened to me was finally the very first time I finally made it to the shopkeeper to get the damn cursed eggplant off of me. I came out of the door and was immediately turned back into another eggplant, and I didn't have the hearts to buy anything.
Yeah,
I didn't have the hearts to buy another potion, and the code that I had was there. That was my code, and I was just like, I hate this game so much.
This was one of the first games ever released with a code, right? This was of that era. It was originally a Famicom Disk System game that was ported over to cartridge. It was one of the first games to use a helper chip, the MMC chip. So it looked significantly better than games that had come before it. But they had not really figured out how to do passwords yet, because they just included the entire alphanumeric, A through Z in uppercase and lowercase, plus I think it was 0 through 9. And the 1 looks a lot like the lowercase L. The 5 looks like the S. Yeah, it's like, so it's like a lot of that stuff was really hard to kind of configure.
I think I said before we actually started the show, I was talking about all the failed passwords.
Yeah. Speedrunners can get this game done in an hour and a half, but I think for most people who are like trying to attempt this game, you really do want to interact with that password system, because you're not going to beat this on your first time through. It's too obscure. You're going to have to learn a lot of systems in this game. I mean, I would definitely recommend looking at the manual before you play this game. A lot of retro games you don't have to do that for, but Jesus, like this game, there's a lot going on in this game. I didn't really realize that for so many years until you had kind of brought it up as the game, and we came back to it. There's a lot going on here.
And there's even more actually whenever you finish the game, because like some of the rooms on the very first level, you go in to the door and there's just nothing there. After you've beaten the game, you go back in, you can buy a better bow, and your arrow.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and your arrow shoots halfway across the map at this point. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's like, why did this who puts an empty room here? Why are you ruining a 10-year-old's enjoyment?
But I think that leads to some of my first impressions, whereas like this game doesn't seem that good. Like my first impressions of the game were based off of like the first couple of levels, and there's a bunch of stuff like that.
Yeah, I originally thought
Grim Reaper. I didn't know until actually this morning when I was playing the game that you could actually kill the Grim Reaper, who is like a normal character but a very difficult enemy. You just had to shoot him a ton of times, but to a modern gamer, it seems like you just
below him and jump and shoot.
Yeah, yeah.
And then those little flying fuckers that come in around that too. You're like, son of a! Now I have more.
Yeah,
because and then you just had you could fire an arrow left, right, or up. There was no you couldn't shoot it in angles. So if you were here and they were here and pixel didn't line up, too bad.
Space Invaders style.
Yeah.
I also am embarrassed to admit that it wasn't until this morning that I learned you could shoot up.
That must have been difficult.
That was my third play session of the game in a week or so, right? Since we kind of decided on this game. I spent hours with this game not shooting up. Which,
it
really helps. Super duper
I'm just
helps.
going through all the different scenarios you had to go through while shooting left and right. Climbing up the little. Oh.
One thing I also realized about the game, or I think I read this and then kind of like saw it in my playtime with it, is the game starts off as hard as it's going to get and then actually gets easier as it goes, which is
that's kind
so
of like
messed up.
That was. And I'm wondering if it has anything to do with, because to the best of my knowledge, I don't know what the guy did before Nintendo, but this was the first game that he ever made. And I see in the notes where it says that he was alone up until the last little bit whenever they finished Metroid. But I'm just wondering if that was in his mind. He was like, I'm just going to throw everything at them, make it really hard, and then they can learn. And then if they make it past, then they're good. And that was the way, like once we got past 1-2, it was kind of much smoother sailing.
Yeah.
Some of the information I read said that he wanted it to be more straightforward of a game and more like
really fuck that up.
Kind of more accurate to Greek mythology and stuff. And it said like when the team came in, they kind of changed the plan and wanted it to be a little bit more obscure.
Cartoony kind of like, or kiddish. Yeah. I saw a YouTube video where they were talking about like how the eggplant guy came to be. He wasn't originally in the game. And there's something clever about his name too. And I can't remember quite what it was, but a lot of that stuff kind of tongue in cheek. But the ultimate insult for me was the ending. It was right up there with "Sorry, your princess is in another castle."
There's 5 different endings, right?
And they're so subtle from each other. I've only seen the one ending in person, and I've seen the other 5 on YouTube. But they're just it's kind of an insult. The worst ending. I mean, I don't know. You guys might not be ready to talk about this right now.
Yeah, go ahead.
Spoil it, dude. It's been however many years. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm gonna ruin it for everybody. The worst ending is just your character walks up and she's like, "Thank you," and she gives you a little hat.
Oh, a hat! I love hats.
And then the next ending, I think, was if you collected 999 hearts. It's basically the same thing, but a different hat. And then the third ending, I don't remember what it was, what the criteria was, but again, another hat, but it's like a Viking kind of. You have a plume on it, so you're like, all right, maybe I'm a little bit better.
Getting better hats.
Yeah, and then the fourth ending, still thank you, Pit, but you like transform from a little guy into a muscular dude, and she's like, and then what was considered the best ending is same thing. He transforms into a bigger Pit, but then he gets little 8-bit kiss on the cheek.
Oh,
That was
risque
the
for
ending.
Nintendo.
That was it. And to the best of my knowledge, there was nothing that indicated you should play again on that same save to discover new things. And we just kind of found out by accident. Yeah, like you think he's like, man, I went through all this shit, and you're like, thank you, Pit.
So there would no
over,
if you beat it on like New Game Plus mode, were there any additional endings in that mode?
Not that's documented. Maybe nobody's ever done it. I would wager
How difficult has never been done.
I would wager you just have the better gear through the game, but probably the same. Thank you, Pit.
Yeah, there's all sorts of weird systems in this game. Like you get a score when you finish a level. What is not immediately apparent to me anyway is that score is your experience, and you level up. You actually get more life when that score is higher. Which I was like, oh, okay, that's not. Maybe that's in the manual.
It is actually in the manual. Yeah.
Yeah, but and me being who I was as a kid, I never read manuals until I was absolutely stuck, because I was like apparently a stubborn-headed man at 8. I'd already reached that "don't ask me for directions" kind of space, but we don't need a map. That stuff just stayed in the box, and then sometimes I'd be like, you either needed like to answer the question, like you were talking about Leisure Suit Larry, you have what's the fourth word on page 73 on the second paragraph? Then you got to go dig the manual out. Son of a. Other than that, most of the time my manuals stayed wherever the box was.
Yeah.
And I missed out on so many
rental games didn't come with manuals either. So if you rented games like I did, you just never saw a manual. Or you'd get like a little sticker with the buttons.
Yeah.
Like B is jump.
Stickers.
A is fireball.
Yeah.
Or you get a horribly photocopied where it looked like they had just turned the darkness all the way up.
Yeah.
Is that an ass on there? Like, what are they?
Deborah!
This is it's the wrong manual. You were talking about, so we kind of mentioned the ties to Metroid. It actually used the same engine as Metroid, which I found to be interesting. And I
found that interesting too, because I didn't even realize, honestly, the games used engines back then. I really had no idea, because most of the cartridges were 32 kilobytes, 64 kilobyte on a good day.
Yeah.
I had no idea that engines existed. I thought it was all just lines of code.
It's probably the pre-built sprites and stuff that they just kind of edited, would be my guess.
But that's really interesting, considering how, in my opinion, different those games are from each other.
Yeah. It could have just been like the tools they used to build the levels and stuff.
Yeah.
And the way that things are interacting.
Kid Icarus is more of a vertical for the most part, and then some horizontal, where Metroid is you're all over the place, and this block can be busted, and you just roll in there and hide around.
So
I mean, if you think about it, Metroid.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say Metroid has a lot of vertical stuff too when you're going.
It does a lot, but when I was playing this, and we just talked about Metroid last episode, so I was just comparing this game and why do I love Metroid so much, and this game just does nothing for me. But I was thinking about it, like, actually in Metroid, yes, you go up and you go across, but never at the same time. You're either in a level that you're going straight up or straight down, or you're in a level that you're going side to side. But I think one of the things that made the first couple of levels of Kid Icarus so hard was that it was like a ratcheting system where you go up, but you can't go back down.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you could make a jump, and your peak of your jump could move the screen up, and the thing that you're jumping down on is now off the screen.
Yeah.
Oh, the pain! I remember that. You just brought all of that back to me.
And there's some strats too to jumping up and getting the screen to move, because sometimes there'd be ads. There'd be enemies falling from the top, and they'd keep dropping unless you got the screen to a certain point. So there's some strategy there of like, okay, well, I need to get the enemies to stop falling, so you just kind of jump in place to get the screen to move. But yeah, now then you're screwed. You're like, well, now if I screw up the jump, I'm screwed.
Right.
So
I
and
think
then
that's one of the things that interests me the most by them sharing the engine is there was no backtracking in Kid Icarus.
Mm.
Whereas with Metroid, you could literally play it any way you had the same ending, but the path to get there was totally up to you.
mhm.
If you didn't
Yeah.
want all the extra rockets, you didn't have to go look for them. If you didn't need the ice beam, so that's what intrigues me the most about it being such a similar game. They're
Yeah.
so different.
Metroid also had like a cohesive like world design, right? It's like
Mhm.
you felt like you were in a space station or you're in like this kind of like whatever that is, and like there's aliens that you're shooting at, and like the whole sci-fi theme kind of felt somewhat cohesive for an NES game. I think it's pretty
Mhm.
impressive. Kid
And the
Icarus,
music just tied it all together. It's such
yeah,
good music in Metroid.
Kid Icarus is a little different. It's not. It doesn't feel like the whole thing's not themed like like uh like Greek mythology, right? There's like credit cards in there. There's
Mhm.
there's
Well,
other
they
weird
put some
stuff. Like
columns in. Didn't you see the
I
columns?
did
That's
see the
very Greek.
columns. Yes, that was pretty
That's
Greek.
all you need. Some columns and some credit card.
Greeks, the inventors of credit. I didn't
How are
realize
we going to
that.
justify this guy having a cash register? Let's not see the column.
But I didn't run across this when I was playing it. But when I was looking at like kind of the rest of the game, I like to see the rest of the game when we're going to talk about it. I realized that this guy went to a shop and the shopkeeper basically said to him, "Well, I'll give it to you on credit, and then as you play more, you don't actually earn any hearts, which are currency. They're not your life. They're just going back to that shopkeeper that
Mhm.
you bought stuff on credit for," which I thought
And
was
I thought I was so
hilarious.
slick whenever I thought, haha, I'm never coming back to pay you, jackass. And then I realized 30 minutes later, wait,
Yeah.
what's, oh, you jerk.
Uh, the game, I'll tell you, coming into playing this, even coming into today, where I played the most of it today, I played like 4 hours of it today. I kind of I've always discounted this game, but I've kind of fallen in love with it. Like it's just kind of this like there's so much randomness to it that it's just
Mhm.
it, I don't know that I'll put in the effort to beat it, but it sure would be nice to be able to yeah, I beat Kid Icarus.
I will say to that point, like I actually enjoyed it. I know I can be critical of games, but I think the thing that keeps me interested in it is that if you die in a level, you go back to that point, like that kind of stage. You don't go all the
Mhm.
way to the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
If you got thrown all the back to the beginning of the game, I would have been like, fuck this game, I'm done. But like it would pop you back to the bottom and you'd have to use that kind of short-term memory that you just had. Like, okay, make sure to skip this part. Okay, then you kind of wrap around to the other side of the screen, skip this little enemy, and then an enemy would pop up where it wasn't before, and you're like, son of a bitch,
Yeah.
you know? But it felt achievable to a certain degree until I got to the point where I just think I didn't have enough life to kind of survive it.
Yeah,
But
once you get to like 1-3, it's we found it was easier to kind of like hang out in an area where the enemies just keep coming
yeah,
and just farm that XP to build your life meter up a little higher.
Yeah.
that's
That all,
exactly where I got stuck was 1-3. So
the game starts hard, like real hard. Like right from the get-go. It's like take no prisoners.
so
But
hard.
you do yeah, I mean you do upgrade your life bar over time. You do upgrade your weapon. You get like a flaming arrow. You change colors kind of like well other NES games, I guess a lot of them did that, but I don't know. Like I found the charm in the game for the first time in since 1987. I finally found the charm in this game. This game came out in 1987.
In the
Mhm.
US, 86 in
Okay,
Japan.
all right.
It was on the Famicom. Yeah,
It
it
was
was.
interesting.
It is funny because going back to how difficult it is in the beginning of the game, the last fight, I can't remember exactly how many, but it's like minimal amount of shots that you actually have to shoot Medusa in her eye to kill her. and it's just more like avoiding these little snake things that come at you. And it was like we were really, really expecting a just balls to the wall, excruciatingly painful boss fight, and we're like, oh shit, that's Medusa, and it was like pew pew pew, dodge dodge, pew pew pew.
Nailed it.
Did we do it? Yeah, it was the just kind of from there on. It's not surprising in retrospect that the thank you pit was such a kick in the shin after the boss fight wasn't as much as it could have been, but
Yeah.
thankfully wasn't.
Video
It
game
would have
endings
been.
just weren't that big a deal back then, right? Like
Mm.
they were to players, but I don't think they were. I don't know.
Cutscenes didn't exist, so
Yeah.
we got whatever the pixels were able to do and some text on the screen.
Yeah. A lot of the story was given to you through manuals, right? It's like the first couple
Mhm.
pages of a manual would set up the story, who the characters were,
Yeah,
and
it
then
was
it
the
was up to
premise.
your imagination from there on.
I remember basically, in a nutshell, the after I went back and read it, that after having no idea what was going on with the game or why I was doing what I was doing, was that there was a goddess who loved the people and bathed them and stuff, and then Medusa hated that and then turned them to stone, and then we show up. It's like we're the champion and we got to fix it, and that was the story of Kid Icarus. Medusa bad.
Palatina.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, so they were kind of equals. I feel like it's almost like a Jesus and Satan kind of thing,
Hmm.
where they're both angels. And to your point, yeah, Palatina was the goddess of light, I think, and Medusa was the
Goddess of
not,
darkness.
something like that. And basically, Medusa, I believe, turned Palatina to stone or something after being sent away from the kingdom. And so, and then they kind of, what was it? The tablet, the mirror, and the something else, which is like
Hmm.
so then the only person Pitt was actually in prison or something, and he was like the only one left. And so
What was
they
Pitt
brought,
doing? They got him
yeah, right.
locked
I
up.
don't know. They didn't elaborate on that.
We're actually the bad guy, kind
In
of.
prison. And so, yeah, he was like the only one left that could
It's
do
a
it.
one-man suicide squad.
Pretty much.
Send in the flying guy. Tell him don't go too close to the sun, though.
Yeah, right. The original story of Icarus, he dies pretty quickly. So this was more based on, it was more based on a different story. I can't remember. It was Palamedes or something. I don't know, something like that. I thought it was interesting that the development team, this was a game that required crunch. So it talks about how the staff was working overtime and often stayed in the office and used cardboard boxes as beds and covered themselves in curtains
Yeah, because funny
in an
thing,
unheated building.
yeah, back then, the companies would just shut the heat and everything off at night. And so, and it was like, well, we're here. Well,
Yeah.
sorry, you're not paying the power bill, are you? So,
Jesus.
um, yeah, that I was, I learned that like 2 or 3 years ago. I watched a video. I was watching something about Howard Phillips. Was that his name? The guy who was like the headpiece for Nintendo of America for a while.
That
You
sounds
know what I'm
right.
talking about?
Yeah.
I was watching a video about him, and I went down. I fell down the loop, the rabbit hole, and ended up watching some stuff and landed on Kid Icarus and remember them talking about. It was pretty common back then. If you worked in anywhere in Japan, like it would at night, whenever the day was done, they shut everything down. It was just too bad. So I guess they kept the computers on, but they couldn't keep the heat.
Just like
Computers weren't
huddling next
like
to
modern
computers
ones
for
where
warm.
they're heat pumps now.
Yeah.
And it was something like under a week that the crew that was working on Metroid finally finished up, and the Nintendo said, all right, one guy working on this game, you can have these resources to help you finish, with like just a few days before it was supposed to be launched.
Yeah, and
That's
they came
crazy.
out at the same time, Metroid and Kid Icarus.
See, I thought the Kid Icarus came out before Metroid. I hadn't heard of Metroid until like maybe
I thought
the year
Metroid came out
after.
before Icarus.
I believe they came out the same day.
Hmm.
And
I'm gonna need a minute by minute playback here. Which one hit the counter at Toys R Us first? We're gonna need to look at the video feed.
We talked about this on the Metroid episode. It's Metroid and Kid Icarus are the only two in the adventure series, which I thought it was funny. As soon as D2H was like, "All right, I want to do Kid Icarus," I was like, "That's perfect," because they're like
just knocking out that adventure series.
Yeah,
Is that
right.
Still shrink wrapped?
No. It's I would not
It's
be handling
shiny.
it. Like
I thought that it was still
I
wrapped.
I have them in these like
okay,
plastic kind of cover. They're like cheap. They're like 30 cents a piece, kind of acrylic, like
okay.
plastic.
I really
They
thought
help.
that was still shrink wrapped, and I was like, "How dare you wave that in my face?"
No. But and going along with the Metroid engine too, there is actually a character. I can't remember what his name is. That is essentially the Metroid, and like the little blobby thing with the little claws.
the purple guys.
Yeah. So in the manual, it says this little guy is from space. We don't know how he got here. Like there's like no explanation at all.
That's awesome.
It's just some random enemy they threw in the game. Like, we need extra enemies. Yeah, just pull the Metroid over.
Give him a Metroid.
I know we're in Heaven Land right now. No, Angel Land, I think, is what the area you played Kid Icarus is in. I know we're in Angel Land, but aliens?
Mm-hmm.
See the guy.
So Gambit, hold on. Now I have to like look it up. Because what I read said they came out at the same time.
Yeah, I thought Metroid was earlier. But I wasn't keeping track back then, so what the fuck do I know? It's just a kid.
Well, I have a very skewed timeline of some things because I didn't actually own an NES until a year after it came out.
Mm-hmm.
And then so like everything then was new.
Right.
And I had mine came with Mario Brothers. This was after they'd already stopped selling the Mario Brothers Duck Hunt combo. Mine had
really?
Super Mario Brothers. And then I had Pro Wrestling, Metroid, and
couldn't get that license for pro wrestling, huh? Just pro wrestling, like
just
golf.
Pro Wrestling, yep. And then Blaster Master.
That's a fucking classic.
That was a I actually went back and played that a few months ago in the arcade, and it was just reminded of how fluid it was as far as like going from your car to your little dude to the overhead view. It was a very creative game.
Yeah. They make new ones of those, the Blaster Master Zero series. They're still making those. I think the third one just came out. What? They're good too. They're like really good.
I know this.
Yeah, they're on the Switch. They're real good. What are you finding, Jay?
So I guess y'all are right. I mean, they came out within like 6 months of each other. So I'm guessing that's what it meant by the same time when I read it.
Maybe they came out the same day in Japan or something.
No, that's what I was looking at.
Oh.
In Japan, it was still August 86 for Metroid, and then December 86 for Kid Icarus. So it was within 4 months.
Yeah,
just pretty soon. But yeah. So I was incorrect. I thought I read it. I just read it wrong.
Nobody's keeping track except for me. I write it down every time you're wrong.
Yeah. It's often. It's fine.
We'll notch. Should we do some pickups?
You and my wife can compare notes.
We talk. We keep notes.
You guys got any pickups this week?
No.
I just not retro. No, I just picked up Psychonauts 2.
Yeah, anything.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's retro.
The
style.
original 16 years old. So
yeah, that's retro.
Did
you ever play the original?
No. And I downloaded it. I bought it last month when they like confirmed the release date.
Yeah.
I was gonna play it leading up to this one, and it's just things fell apart with my schedule. And
yeah. The new one looks fantastic. I'm looking forward to playing it as well. Yeah, I think the old one is on Game Pass, isn't it?
I don't know. I picked it up for like $4 on Steam, and then I found
that's practically free.
An HD mod pack I found an HD mod pack because it already renders pretty good, but then you've got like the muddy textures, and I found a mod for that, but it requires a program to run that I'm not familiar with yet, so I haven't really fooled around with it.
Have you played Psychonauts 2 yet?
No, it's actually not supposed to be out until tomorrow, but it just somebody DM'd me and said it was out, and I've just bought it and I'm installing it.
Nice.
So apparently it's might be like a rolling thing because of New Zealand and Australia, maybe.
Could be.
I got the Cotton reboot in the mail, which is not a retro game per se because it's a remake of Cotton, which I think originally came out on the TurboGrafx 16. It's like a side-scrolling shoot 'em up, but you play instead of a spaceship, you play as a witch, and the whole thing is kind of like Halloween themed.
I haven't heard of it.
Yeah, I thought it'd be fun to play like a modern version of Cotton, so I ordered that and it just showed up. It's still in the shrink wrap. I haven't played it yet.
I was gonna make some cheesy joke about clothing. Is it Cotton?
Yeah, yeah, it is Japanese, so
Wonder what the translation. I mean, the translation means cotton, but I'm curious if there's
yeah, I
if
don't
it's
know.
more interesting in Japanese.
Polyester.
Yeah, right.
Rayon.
I got a bunch of stuff, but I've been saying this. I literally haven't opened up eBay like at all in the last couple of days, not even to just check.
Does it
Um,
hurt?
so I am slowing down big time. But I went to the retro game store and traded in a bunch of stuff again. Um, I wouldn't say it's the last hurrah because I do have like one big thing from eBay still coming, but I mean I pretty much have shut down from that unless I find some astronomically good deal. I'm kind of at that point. But I got a bunch of stuff at the game store and a few things on eBay. I'll try to go quick.
Jay's like that girl who tells you how
Mm.
how she's never done this before as she's taking off her dress.
All right.
Let's see the goods, Jay.
Yeah, we'll start with Game Boy. Bionic Commando for Game Boy.
Oh man, I have a copy of this, Jay, and it's broken. I
Oh
want it
no.
so bad. Bionic Commando is one of my favorites.
Tried to clean it and stuff.
Oh yeah, it
Yeah.
just is
So
broken.
I looked at the video and it looks and sounds amazing. Like the soundtrack for the Game Boy version, it looks fantastic. Like,
Well, a lot of people think it's better than the NES version.
wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it got good reviews too. It's probably why like it's marked as $45, but the market for it right now is like 60 or 70 on eBay for this.
Yeah. Yep. It used to be rare. It's always been kind of rare too, because I don't think it was because they didn't make a lot. I think it was just because people who are Bionic Commando fans would grab it and keep it. You know, it's just you don't see it a lot.
Right.
But I don't think it's that uncommon as far as cartridges go.
Game Boy, like original Game Boy games, there are a lot of games that are starting to become quite rare.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to snag them up as much as I can. There was a copy of Mole Mania that I missed out on that just is starting to skyrocket and get really kind of sought after.
There's also for the Game Boy Color, I think it's for the Game Boy Color, Elite Bionic Commando, I think it's called Elite Force.
Yeah.
Which unfortunately is not a good game, but my copy does work.
Yeah. That happens. So just for reference, D2H, like I say this almost every time. Briar could probably give my shtick. All this stuff was with trade-ins, and I try to get this stuff for half of what it's marked at. Plus the retro store, I've gone so much that I get 10% off, like the market price too. Anyways, the next, speaking of Game Boy Color, Metal Walker for Game Boy Color, and it's a Capcom game, and I looked it up, and it's getting like 8s and 9s out of 10s. This game, it looks like a Pokemon game or like a Zelda game, and it's an RPG, and it is very, very well received. And I had never heard of it until I was like, just kind of looking. I saw it on the shelf, and I was like, "Oh, that looks like an interesting game. I wonder what that's like, and what the market is on that." And again, like it's becoming a more sought after game, but it looked really interesting to me.
Occurs to me, I think we need to have like a different screen for this segment of the podcast. So I know there's a lot of audio listeners, but for the people who do watch the video, it'd be nice if you were a little bit bigger, or if I was presenting the game that I bought, if I was a little bit bigger, so you just see it a little bit better. I'm gonna do that for next episode, or I'm gonna talk to Ash, see if we can do that.
Okay,
seems like that'd be
that's good.
Yeah,
when I
be
have like
bigger,
nothing
Jay,
to show.
jeez.
Yeah,
What's that?
bigger.
Be bigger.
Trying to-
Red.
So here's the next game. It's called Street Cop for NES.
Street Cop.
And the most interesting thing about this game.
Look at that art. Oh my god.
I'm trying to look at the bottom. You see how it says power pad required.
You can almost feel the racism in that art.
Power pad required. I didn't even know this was a thing. I didn't realize it until I got home. I was like, wait, power pad required. So I went on YouTube and I found somebody literally that had like a camera on their feet. And it almost looks like
Dance Revolution.
No, it looks like River City Ransom or something, or like
Cop Rock.
The original Double Dragon or something is what it looks like, and you're just going back and forth a lot, and you're talking to people and doing different things, but you have to fucking on the power pad to walk.
Oh my god, that's annoying.
Yeah. So,
do you use the controller at all?
Yes, to do like to do your fighting and throwing animations. So I think it was just a product of them not having enough buttons to use what they wanted. So they're like, oh, why not just use the power pad? That's a lot of extra stuff.
They could have made us use the damn Robbie the robot that never got used.
Or the second controller.
It's really weird. Like
Robbie
watching
made
somebody
like
play
4
through this.
moves in 3 minutes.
It is not a good game.
Poor Robbie.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. And the art on that is enough reason to own it, though.
Yeah. This is like, I like those obscure kind of games that most people have never heard of. I don't know why. Speaking of bad games, Razor for the N64, Razor Scooter. Let me be clear.
Mm-hmm.
So the interesting thing about this game is that
I thought it was about the Motorola phone.
Just like, every interaction you have, you're just slamming it. This was a Blockbuster only title. This was a Blockbuster only release, a la, Clay Fighter Sculptor's Cut, Daikatana, what else? Blitz Championship Edition. So, like, I like to get the Blockbuster exclusive stuff because they're theoretically rare. But they used to fire sale these sealed for like $20 years ago. Just like, here, you get a sealed Razor, you get a sealed Razor, you get it like $20, But they're starting to go up in value. And I looked at it and I watched a video, and there's a Razor PS1 game as well. I don't know if it's the same, but this one, it looks like a Tony Hawk ripoff, but not as good. Like there
were a ton of those. Right?
Yeah, it straight up looks like like you're collecting stuff and you're doing tricks and all that. It straight up looks like a Tony Hawk ripoff. And I was like, this doesn't look too bad. But then I looked at all the reviews and they're like, yeah, this is horrible. You don't want this. It's really bad. It's like, okay.
Probably costs about the same amount as an actual Razor scooter.
This was $29. They're going.
No,
I
mean new,
like
new.
30 to 40 to 50.
Oh, it never was new, right? Because it was only Blockbuster.
Well, you could still get them sealed, but yeah. I think nobody ever rented them, so they just had like pallets of them sealed in the back.
Yeah.
Mom, I want to rent the Razor scooter game.
Yeah, it was right next.
Pop it in, and it's actually the Atari 2600 ET. That's where they put all those damn games.
Yeah, right. I get the sense that this was one of those marketing tactics to try to just sell more Razor scooters. Like they just get a game out, kind of like how old action figures would be. Like, just make a TV show. I don't care if it's good,
Yeah, could be.
So we covered the first game in this series, and they happen to have this at the store, and it's like skyrocketing in price. And I needed to get it before it got too high. Sparkster.
Oh yeah, the sequel to Rocket Knight.
This is the actual sequel. The SNES one is not. So they actually have this marked at 85, and it's got like a rip in the label, which I'm not a huge fan of. But currently, even a ripped label of this is going for like 120, 130. It's getting up there. I wanted to get a complete copy, but they're going for almost $300. I was like, yeah, no.
Yeah.
Is my camera all like messed up or is it good? No,
It's fine.
That's good.
All right.
Rocket Knight.
Yeah,
We did Rocket Knight on the show? Did we do
we
that?
did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Forgot that
So
we did
actually,
it.
I looked at the video of this and it reminded me of Sonic. The music probably more than the game itself, but a lot of the aesthetics, like Emerald Hill Zone and all that kind of stuff, it looked like that
Yeah.
more so than the first one, for sure.
Yeah.
Just interesting. Another
I
Genesis.
haven't played
rodent.
the second one yet. I'd like to. The first one is, I think, one of the best Genesis games.
Yeah, the second one did not get as high of praise, but they
Mhm.
still said it's solid. Speaking of rodents, Mr. Nuts for the SNES,
Oh,
Remember that
Mr.
game?
Nuts.
made by Ocean.
Ocean had some weird games.
So the thing that's even more weird about this is the price. I can
$115 for
$115?
Mr. Nuts. That's a bargain.
Yeah, well, it is starting to like some
These
people
nuts
are
will cost you $200 minimum.
paying more than this. This is another game that's like skyrocketing for some reason. I looked at the video. So DTH, you know what this game is?
Just call me DTH.
D2H.
Nope, I'm gone.
He did.
Gotta
He
go.
did. He said
What?
DTH.
What? What, Mom?
I was saying D2H. I was just like D2H, D2H. But it's I don't know. It's how do I describe this game? It's a side-scrolling platformer adventure game, action game, and you're a squirrel. And it kind of looked like a slower Sonic almost.
So, like
And
one of the
What?
million mascot platformers that came out at the time.
yeah,
A lot of
And-
the Ocean games just kind of, I remember them just kind of feeling like knockoff Hudson Soft games,
Oof.
or like something that remember when LJN made video games instead of
Yep.
toys?
yeah, we've talked a bunch about those. We featured one of them on the show. Star Wars game was an LGN game. It was not good.
Mm.
I liked it.
This had mixed reviews. So some people were like, yeah, it was like a 3 or 4 out of 10. Somebody rated it a 7 out of 10. They said like under its kind of weird exterior, it was a decent platformer kind of thing. That's kind of basically what people were saying about this. A couple more things. So I showed, I don't know, maybe a month ago or 2 weeks ago, I showed the Game Boy camera that I got complete in box. And of course, with that, I had to get this, the Game Boy printer with paper in box. It doesn't have all the manuals and everything, but the printer itself's in good shape. And
What was it used for? What were you supposed to print with it? Like the screen of your game, or how did that work?
no, like you can take pictures of yourself and print out little pictures of yourself, like from the Game Boy camera.
I did not know that existed.
Yeah, and there's all these like little apps and stuff for the Game Boy camera where you can put like Mario in your background or Pokemon or whatever. So like think about being a kid and taking a picture with Mario in the background, you know. It's like a photo booth type thing
I would have
essentially.
needed to have that whenever I was a kid.
Yeah. We've actually talked about there was somebody who developed a game using the Game Boy camera. Like they legit went in and programmed a game using the Game Boy camera software. And it was weird, but it was interesting, just the mechanical part of it. Anyways, so yeah, I never owned a Game Boy printer or camera as a kid, but I had a friend who did, and I remember just like taking 3 pictures, printing it out, and be like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
I did it.
And the creme de la creme, the game that I'll be talking about for years in my collection. Austin Powers, Oh Behave. And the only reason I have this is because it was bundled with the printer and the paper.
Oh, wow.
So,
Does it
like-
use the camera, the printer, or the paper?
no,
Or they just somebody had this
no.
stuff?
It's only on the Game Boy Color. Nowhere
It's not
else.
called Austin Powers, the video game. It's called Oh Behave.
Oh, behave.
Wait, on the back, did it say that's 1 of 4?
Collect all 4. Number 1. There must
So
be
there's
4
4 of
Austin
those?
Power games.
It was the same game, just different box art.
Yeah. Right?
There's like you can't really see it, but on the top left there, Austin Powers is the little guy, and there's like an enemy with an orange shirt who's just really large guy. This looks like King
That
Hippo.
fat bastard.
Yeah. It's weird because like the sprite of Austin Powers almost looks like a nerd because he's got glasses and like a white lab coat. He almost looks like Dexter or something from
Looks
Dexter's
like
Lab.
the kid from Earthbound.
Yeah, he does kind of look like that actually. That's really weird. And that's it. That's my pickups.
That was a weird one. That's a oh behave. And what was the one? Mr. Balls?
Mr. Balls.
Mr. Nuts.
Oh,
I'm sorry,
my
it's
bad.
Mr.
I got
Balls
it
to
so
you.
wrong. Mr. Nuts.
I just looked at the reviews
Yours is
for
better than
Behave.
Sir Sack.
Sir Sack.
Behave was reviewed by IGN.
Okay. And what did they have to say about it?
That's a 3 out of 10.
That adds up.
Says there's a lot to do on the Behave cart, and little of it is good. Like its WTMUL cousin, that's an acronym for probably the other Austin Power game. The computer interface here really gets in the way of enjoyment. When you do find what you're meant to be doing, you'll find it bland and derivative. Save your money for something that isn't such blatant licensed drivel.
Nice.
Because
they were
all
having some
movie
fun
video
with
games
the
are usually really good.
Yeah, I don't remember any of them being good. What's like the best movie or video game movie adaptation? Or
Batman? At least back then, maybe?
for the NES? Was that
Or
based on the movie? Or the
Batman
comic?
the movie. Yeah, there's a game. It's called Batman the movie.
Oh,
Game.
was that for the
Yeah.
Genesis?
NES.
It was for
That was
the
for the
NES
NES?
and the Genesis.
Yeah.
Because I have it on both platforms. I accidentally the ROM I downloaded had both.
Was it good?
It's SNES. It's decent for the day, and it's got Michael Keaton in it. So
Difficult.
it's a pretty tough game. It was one of those. It's a side scroller and just like a beat 'em up, but it's one of those where you walk and you feel sluggish and you let go and you still take like 2 more steps before you stop. And that will get you punched in the face because you have to stop walking before you can punch. So
Yeah.
I actually played that game on Game Boy more than anything else, the Batman game.
Because there's a fantastic Batman game for the NES, but it's more
Batman
like a
and
Ninja
Robin?
Gaiden. No. It's just called Batman. And
That's the one that we're talking about, I think.
no, this is like more like a Ninja Gaiden kind of game where your character is really small and you can jump around. And
I remember that. It was just the Batman logo, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
It just
That
said
was the one that
Batman,
I
and
was
it just
thinking
had a big logo.
And
That's the game
Batman
that-
is purple.
Yeah. That's the one I played on Game Boy, not the other one.
You know, like canonical Batman being purple.
Was there any other movie games that were good? I mean, there's like the X-Men stuff, Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, there's great Spider-Man games, but are any of them based off any movies? Or are they mainly based off of the comics?
I think one of the PS4 Spider-Man movies games was based off the movie, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think it was. The one that had the really bad camera.
I'm
A
trying
couple
to
of the
think.
Spider-Man games were really good, but the camera was just stupid aggressive. And if you got anywhere near a wall, there's no telling what you were going to be looking at, but it wasn't Spider-Man.
I found a list that said like greatest games based on movies.
Okay.
Oh, these are like PlayStation and beyond style. Never mind.
Give us a couple. What are they?
Tron 2.0, Star Wars TIE Fighter,
Oh,
Thing.
Star Wars, of course. There's definitely good Star Wars games.
Yo,
Indiana
Lego Star
Jones and the
Wars
Fate
is
of
dope.
Atlantis. What was that? Sorry.
Lego Star Wars is dope.
It is good, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
there's been a couple Indiana Jones games that are good too. There's a great one on the Xbox that I can't remember the name of, but man, that was a good game. They made a
The only
Buffy
Indiana
game
Jones game
out
I
of
ever
the
played was the
same
arcade.
engine. Arcade?
Yeah, that's the only one I ever played. It was I think it was the Temple of Doom, and you were just constantly climbing up ladders, rescuing kids out of little cages before you got killed.
Just like the movie.
That was one of the first 50-cent games I remember. It
Oof.
cost 2 tokens to play.
That's a lot.
I mean, there's a lot of
Living that
games
rich
based
kid's
on
life.
movies.
You
Yeah,
go to
there's
an
tons of
arcade
them,
now,
but
and the
they're all
average game's
still
$1.50.
suck.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a Three Ninjas Kickback video game.
I think there's a lot of them.
Well, the Addams Family had some Nintendo games.
Yes, Fester's Quest, I remember not being good, but I liked it anyway because,
Well,
you know.
Fester's Quest was an ocean game, if I remember correctly.
There you go.
Of course.
One,
So there's
well,
a-
maybe not that one, but I'm almost positive Ocean made one of the Addams Family games.
Probably.
Fester's Quest required a turbo controller.
It had the NES Advantage.
There was here's a list for NES specifically.
Let's hear it.
From 10 to 1, Rambo, which
Crap.
yeah, Dirty Harry,
Crap.
Played too much Rambo too.
Conan the Barbarian,
Never even
I don't remember
seen
that.
it.
Die Hard, which is it's like a $150 cart.
Yeah.
Platoon.
I own that. It's crap. I can't believe
Robo-
I bought that because I could not believe that they made a Platoon video game. Have you guys ever seen that movie?
Mm-hmm.
It is like the most.
It's
The
not-
Naked Gun. Leslie Nielsen made a joke in The Naked Gun about how depressing that movie was, and they made a video game about it.
Wasn't
RoboCop,
there an
RoboCop.
Aliens game?
Aliens for SNES
Yeah,
Oh, it was
and
SNES.
Genesis.
Okay.
There's an
RoboCop.
original.
RoboCop versus Terminator is a fantastic game, but based on a comic book.
There's just straight up Terminator.
For
Total
NES?
Recall.
Oh yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah.
That's crap. Total Recall's crap as well.
Untouchables, which we talked about the other week, which is also not great,
Yeah,
and the Blues Brothers.
crap.
That's like it. That's their top 10 list for NES.
Hmm.
None of them are great. SNES has a lot more good ones, I think.
Yeah, you get into Super Star Wars, and that's
Yeah.
a good game, right? Like that's a
Jurassic
legit.
Park games are solid.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good
Wow.
stuff on the SNES.
Boy, the NES movie adaptations though. That's a list. And they're old movies too. Dirty Harry? They weren't making Dirty Harry movies when that NES was out, did they? Maybe Deadpool? What was the last Dirty Harry game that came or movie that came out? Had to be the 80s, I guess.
Never seen them. No idea.
Never seen any of them? I don't know that I'd recommend that you go do.
they
Have you
good
ever seen them,
movies?
damn it?
They don't. Yeah, they don't really stand up that well.
Yeah.
Most Clint Eastwood movies don't stand up very well.
No, I
It's-
think there's some really good
I mean,
stuff still.
Right Turn, Clyde. Yeah, that's always a good time. Any Which Way
That's a
But
classic.
Loose. Any Which Way But Loose. And then what was the sequel to that? It was a similar title.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Those were pretty good. But
Any Which Way
don't-
But Loose?
I never really got into
Yeah.
the cowboy genre, the bad guy. Kick your ass with my stare.
Yeah,
Are you
I
talking
did.
to
I thought
me?
all those spaghetti westerns were pretty awesome. I think he still makes good movies. I think Gran Torino is still one
Gran
of my favorite
Torino was
movies.
phenomenal.
Yeah,
I haven't seen that either.
that's a good one. That I would recommend. Dirty Harry, maybe
Mhm.
skip. Gran Torino, that's a classic. That's really good.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, I am talking to you. Why do you ask that? There's only 3 of us here.
Right?
Should we wrap this one up, guys?
Sure. What was I'm trying to remember what the game was that you picked. 4
Oh,
weeks
right.
ago.
Next week we'll be doing Thunder First 4, or in America it went by a different name that I have forgotten, and I have to quickly look at my notes to remember.
Lightning Force.
Lightning Force Quest for the Dark Star, but internationally, it went by Thunder Force 4. It's a Genesis shoot 'em up, side-scrolling shoot 'em up, and the graphics are outstanding. And I thought we could use kind of a palate cleanser, nice, simple slide-scrolling shooter. Like, you pretty much experience this one in a couple hours. You know,
Don't
like,
need a guide to play it.
no,
Looks
just
like
shoot the
Thunder
shit.
Thunder Force 4 is on Switch, it looks like.
Awesome. That's even better.
Oh yeah,
More ways to play.
That was one of the arcade style bullet hell space games.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You're just like everything's going good, then the boss shows up and he's got 9 million guns on his ship.
This doesn't seem fair.
It's like the equivalent of waiting to the end of the fight to call it. Oh wait, we can be Voltron. I keep forgetting.
Why don't we just start as Voltron?
There would be 9,000 5-minute episodes. There's some bad shit happening. Call Voltron.
Yeah. Not the car one. That one's
Not
lame. The lion
bring it
one.
all in. The original lions. Yes.
All right. dammit2hell, where can people find you?
I'm right here
Where?
in my bedroom.
Oh, he's sending
Well.
an invite out.
I'm on Twitch, dammit2hell, DAMMIT, and the number 2 HELL. And I'm on Twitter, dammit2hell, but somebody in 2008 made dammit2hell and never tweeted or even follows or has any followers, but Twitter won't give me the name, so I have a 3 instead of the name.
Motherfucker.
I know. Fucking Emma. Her name's Emma. That's all I know. It's Emma. They've
Oh,
That's
never
my
done
daughter's
anything.
name.
About to dox her.
I've done everything.
She
I've-
lives
I know
on
this
72 Springfield Lane.
Yikes.
I know this is not retro related, but I've done everything that Twitter asks to claim this account because it's been dormant literally for years.
Yeah.
And they won't. I bought dammit2hell.com for the purpose of Twitter saying, "Oh, you're dammit2hell. Here, have this name." And they're like, can't even get a reply.
Damn.
So I have zero continuity across social networking with my name. It's so bad.
Not,
make
it
an
becomes
account.
like a pressure thing. Every time you hear about a new social network, you have to like immediately go sign up and try and get your name. Even if you don't plan on using it, it may be the next Twitter or Instagram. So you
Yeah, I lost dammit2hell on TikTok because I didn't even know TikTok existed at the time. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm on Twitch. I stream Sundays at 6 p.m. Eastern, and then Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Usually run until about midnight. Variety stream. We play whatever feels good or looks good for that day.
Nice. Sounds good.
What's feeling good right now?
Well, Psychonauts 2 tomorrow, but I'm currently, which is on topic for what we're doing here. I'm finalizing all my arcade stuff, and I'm going to start doing every other week or so retro streams with the kids. I'm working on a mic situation right now, but when I get that done, I'll be doing actual retro streams.
That'd be
Nice.
fun. Like add a cabinet so they can see you using the arcade stick as well. That's fun. That's a really cool idea.
And I think the big appeal will be me sharing old titles with my kids for the first time and
Yeah.
watching them either go, "This sucks" or "This is really cool," you know.
Yeah.
Like that's gonna be some fun reactions. What? What is this?
Mhm.
Were you into
Those are
Street
only
Fighter
2
back in the
buttons.
day or Mortal Kombat?
I gave up on Mortal Kombat around 3.
Mhm.
I really liked it up until then, but then it just got so combo intensive that my ADHD brain would like store 3 combos and the rest of them went away. So that was my 3 moves, and people very quickly found out my strats and
Yeah.
stopped having fun. But yeah, I played a lot of that stuff in the day.
Yeah. Have you tried going against like one-on-one against your kids in those games, the fighters?
No, because those are just press all the buttons at once, and they have much better reflexes, so they would press them all faster than I would.
Good
And
point.
then they would get on the TikTok in the Twitch box, and they'd be like, "Oh, my dad's crap. Oh, I beat him." And
I
then
thought
they
you
would
were
go,
saying you stopped playing when you turned 3 years old. I was like,
"Oh,
you were
no."
playing Mortal Kombat at 3? That's a little gory. It's fine.
Yeah, I retired from professional gaming at 3. Became an old bearded bald guy and just been going with that ever since.
Your reflex really fall apart at like 2.5.
They do.
It's a young man's game.
Trying to drink my sippy cup, just kept smacking myself in the face with it. Got no coordination here.
Jay, what are you up to in the next couple weeks?
You can find me at Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube at JSniperton. And much like what D2H was doing today, I will be primarily playing the new season of Destiny late at night, irresponsibly, and then probably not getting enough sleep to watch the kids in the morning. So, um, should be fun. Excited to try out Lightning Force. Maybe I'll stream that a little bit too on the analog Genesis stuff. But otherwise, pretty typical. How about you, Briar?
Well, we'll be doing TCP on Thursday. We got a lot to talk about. That reveal was nutty, so we got a lot of new stuff to talk about. Plus the actual season came out, so we've been playing that. Side quest, we've got a ton of stuff going on Side quest. We got a really exciting episode that we can't talk about, but man, it's going to be extremely exciting. So tune into Side quest. I think that's next week, actually. It might be the week after, but I think it's next week that the really exciting episode is coming out. But we got a lot to go. Got a lot of cool stuff to talk about. So make sure you tune in. And that's going to wrap up episode. What episode was it? 24?
24. Almost
episode 24 of the RetroSlot podcast. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thanks for joining D2H.
Yeah, thank you very much. Bye.